Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and I used to be an airline pilot. Let's review this video of the accident or air crash that happened in Kentucky with MD-11, kind of the big aircraft of UPS air carrier. Let's watch this new video that shows that definitely the aircraft had the problems with the engine. It basically was absent. Let's watch it. So here we go. It crosses the road and crashes. Very fast video, but it gives us the clue. If we go frame by frame, definitely you see the absence of the left-hand engine. Also you may see the wing fire, which means that fuel caught the fire, and here it intercepts or cuts those wire line. Then MD-11 hits the roof, landing gear down, and takeoff configuration as for the leading edge devices, for sure trailing edge as well. Here crew tried to pitch up, it's like the desperate action of them, and it just turned down into pieces into this huge fireball. And here's the initial impact of the wing to the building. By the way, so-called black boxes were already recovered. Specialists are now decoding the information recorded. They were damaged by fire, but I think they're in a good shape inside. So I guess that all of the data will be accessible by investigation team, cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder. UPS has already identified 3 crew members on board. They all were perished. Yeah, no chance, absolutely. So crew members were killed in Louisville, I hope I spelled that name correctly, MD-11 crash. Captain Richard Waterberg, International Relief Officer Captain Dana Diamond, and First Officer Lee Truitt. So those persons, yeah. And unfortunately now the death toll is rising because there were people on the ground. Despite the area where the airplane went to is not so populated, but still there were some of the people. So now death toll is, I think, around 13 people and still 9 missing. Those figures at least I read the last time presented. So in my previous video I filmed it like 1 hour after the crash had happened and published 2 hours straight away. I told that the engine just exploded. I understand that it's not the aviation term, but it's just for people to figure out what actually happened, like for normal people. Actually, it's called uncontained engine failure. Then the pieces of the engine just leave the engine cowling, engine core, and penetrate the skin and the airplane construction, causing fire and so on. Well, I still think that it could be like that, especially looking at this turbine section. Parts of the discs and blades are missing. Well, I guess that's probably the hole from which those blades exited the engine. I called it an explosion, yeah, uncontained engine failure, and that led to the damage of the pylon, plus the huge vibration, and those bolts that kept the engine attached to the wing, they just broke down and engine separated. So it turned down the part of the construction, those debris also caused the fuel leak, everything ignited. So it could be like that, yeah. For now, I'm not sure, of course, investigation team will find out. Maybe those are just those bolts and there was the metal fatigue and engine just separated and after it obtained those kind of the damages. So uncontained engine failure cannot be proved right now, but something is wrong here, I guess. And also there is the part of the cowling material, some sort of the fiber or Kevlar. I'm not sure what material is that, but it's the internal part of the engine cowling. The cowling itself looks like that. I don't see the holes there, honestly, so maybe fan didn't blown up. I think it was turbine after all. All of that was found at the end of the runway, not at the very end, but close to that, which means that the engine separated at a quite high speed. I am sure it was more than V1. If they start to brake at this short distance to the runway edge, the airplane would just roll off the runway and the result would be similar. The distance was not enough, pilots took off, and yeah, there was not just the problem with this engine, but also debris went to that central engine. So actually there was a single engine working properly at this airplane. If you check out this first video published, there is the sign of the compressor stall and the flames were coming off the central engine, which is installed in a vertical stabilizer. Yeah, clearly there was the flame like that. So it means that the debris from the wing went just into the engine, and for sure it was not producing enough thrust if it was producing at least something. So with a single engine, of course, this airplane is no-go, heavy loaded, and yeah, the result you saw. Lots of the people in the comments were saying about American Airlines Flight 191 that crash landed in 1979. By the way, the same engine number 1. It happened in Chicago, the engine separated after takeoff and aircraft crashed. A similar model, by the way, this is DC-10, well, MD-11, it looks similar, just a little bit more stretched. Back then it was incorrect maintenance done that led to some sort of detention in those bolts, metal fatigue, that led to this crash. Well, after all, MD-11 is not a DC-10. They're quite different. Nevertheless, those parallels which happened in the history should be considered by investigation team, and believe me, they will be considered. Guys, if you want to get more info about the crash, I recommend to visit avhero.com. That's the website that presents all of the aviation accidents, incidents, which occur worldwide. Well, here they have the latest information. So yeah, 13 people were unalived after all. In the morning we have this new information. Here's the weather information, all of the visual surveillance camera data, the briefing of NTSB. Yeah, it's still kind of early even to consider the preliminary report, but here we have the flight data recorder and cockpit voice. Maybe those are two flight data recorders. As you see, they burn a little, but data inside, I'm sure it's okay. All of the images of the construction and even some of the comments. Well, I would say there is no like super mystery in this crash. Obviously, the reason is the engine number 1, left-hand engine. Investigation just need to find out the precise cause of it to separate, whether those were bolts or the uncontained engine failure. You might call it explosion, that something is exiting the engine and harms the airplane frame. And I guess I'm gonna tell about it more than preliminary report will be published. It's gonna happen in roughly 30 days. What I would also say that MD-11, it's kind of the old airplane that requires precise attention during the maintenance. Spare parts, actual parts of the airplane, they could be worn out. There could be metal fatigue, engines, attachments to the wings, so everything of that should be scrutinizedly checked. Whether it was done here, yes, it was. There was a recent maintenance action happen. How well it was done, there's also a question. So everything of that will be checked, cross-checked, and we'll have the final result. People sadly were unalived, even though this airplane is mostly used for cargo transportation. Still there are people on the ground, you know, still there are losses. Situation is not okay. I hope they'll find out the reason pretty much fast, because the engine is out there, the flight data recorder, cockpit voice recorder also, so they'll figure out. And safe flights to you. Ciao.